What is the future? Sup my lovely bushes, let's look at the future of anime games. We got new consoles coming out this year, and if it's anything like the previous console generation jump, that was a major leap for anime games. Now we already know a lot of what these consoles are capable of, so I've got a bunch of expectations that I think are pretty realistic. That said, there's still a lot we don't know, a lot we need to learn. That's why this video is sponsored by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people. These classes are designed for real life and all the circumstances that come with it. Real life circumstances are exactly what had me slacking on my Japanese learning, but Skillshare has made it easy to pick it back up. There are a lot of Japanese introduction lessons, but I really gravitated towards this one from Yazuki Wolf. He's also a game developer, so I feel like he's looking at Japanese through the same lens that I am. Whether you're looking to learn Japanese or anything else, I don't know, make a YouTube channel. There are plenty of options for you to choose from. There's some great advice in video editing, thumbnail design, and so many more topics. They're always launching new premium classes, and it's less than $10 a month with an annual subscription. But for a limited time, if you click the link down below, you can get a 2-month free trial. 2 months of free access to Skillshare, and 2 months is plenty of time to learn something. Make sure to join, link down below, check out the classes they're offering, and learn something new for free with that 2-month free trial. Thank you Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Also, if you want to discuss anything anime game related, catch me on Twitch. I'm usually playing some anime game, but I mostly do it to hang out with you guys, so show up, link down below. First thing I expect out of the new console generation, and probably the most exciting thing for me, is new players entering the market. And what I mean by new players is new video game publishers. We've always had a handful of companies trying to make anime games, but it is undeniable that Bandai Namco is the king in this area. They don't hold a monopoly, but it's pretty damn close. Now, anime as a whole has been relatively niche up to this point, but in the last couple of years, it has blown up in popularity. Anime has grown so much, and I think it will only keep on growing. And what that means is more anime franchises will get popular, and a single company won't be able to hold all of those licenses. So there's a big opportunity for someone else to come in, enter this anime games market in a big way. We've seen a few attempts of this in the past few years alone. We had Kill la Kill from Arc System Works, we had Attack on Titan and Berserk from Koei Tecmo, so that shift could have already happened. The problem was, I think those games just weren't ambitious enough, there was no risk, they played it too safe. Granted, Kill la Kill was huge when it came out, but when the game happened, it wasn't as popular, and Berserk just isn't on the same level as the anime that Bandai has. But I'd say Attack on Titan had a very good chance. In terms of popularity alone, Attack on Titan is huge. That license could really place Koei Tecmo next to Bandai Namco. Now they're also putting out Fairy Tail, which is also a fairly popular franchise, but the anime is over, so not a lot of longevity with Fairy Tail. There are, however, 2 companies that are making some big moves right now in the anime games industry. Yes, those are Cygames and Aniplex. It's hard to say if Cygames has any interest in acquiring anime licenses for video games, but they are pushing the hell out of Granblue Fantasy, to the point of pushing the technology and gameplay in these types of games forward. As a fighting game, they hired the top studio, Arc System Works, who made a slower anime fighter, introduced easy input systems with cooldowns, and overall made a game that is very easy for beginners to get into, and at the same time it's competitive as hell. Granblue Fantasy Versus is a phenomenal game, and contrary to popular belief, it's sold like crazy in Japan. No one really cares or knows Granblue Fantasy here in the West, which means Cygames doesn't have to care about the West. That's why the game has a terrible netcode and why the Western release was such a mess. It's just not a priority. And now they're making an action RPG, which is one of the best looking games I've ever seen. They hired Platinum Games to develop it. Platinum Games has since been removed from development, and Cygames is finishing it with an internal studio. So development is a bit rocky, but no anime game has ever looked this good ever. They're definitely pushing the genre forward, so if they wanted to acquire a popular anime franchise, just imagine how much they would push the genre forward. And then we have Aniplex, which we can't say much about, but they do have the Demon Slayer license, and Demon Slayer is huge. The license does have the potential to move a lot of people, we just haven't seen much of the game so far. But we know that Aniplex isn't holding back because they hired one of the biggest developers in the field, CyberConnect 2, developer of the Ultimate Ninja series, the Storm series, and more recently Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. Now, I believe that in the next generation this trend will continue, it will grow even bigger. There will be too many big licenses for a single company to hold them all, which means Bandai will have more competition. And more competition is usually a great thing. It pushes these different companies against each other, and the end result is just better games. But that's only true if a company is willing to take a big risk and invest in making something that is undeniably better, something that is a step forward for anime games. And the good news is it only takes the one game, one good, successful game to push the entire genre forward. The bad news is, since these games are not a guaranteed investment and companies hate risk, there's a very good chance of this not happening at all. Anime games are usually pretty safe investments, investments because the IP carries most of the sales, so not a lot of effort needs to be put elsewhere. But I'm optimistic that as anime rises, there will be a new player, a new publisher willing to take that risk and challenge Bandai for the crown. And I think that as long as Bandai holds One Piece and Dragon Ball, they'll remain one of the top dogs. I would say also Naruto, but that seems to be slowly dying out, unfortunately. Oh, My Hero is also pretty big. Yeah, they have some big licenses. They'll be okay. But if someone else is taking another popular license and making even better games, then we might see Bandai step it up, and that is very exciting indeed. The next topic is kind of an obvious one, which has to do with the power and the features that the next consoles offer. Anime games have gone through several looks and different art styles in the past. In Naruto alone, we've seen pixel art, cell shading, and even more realistic attempts. Now we're making that jump to 4K resolution, and I highly recommend checking out the Scarlet Nexus trailer in 4K here on YouTube. You're gonna see the trailer here, but it's just not the same thing. Go watch it in 4K. There are definitely a lot of rough edges. I think the cars look like garbage at the start of the trailer. The frame rate is not where it needs to be, and I'm not a big fan of some of the enemies' design, especially when they look more realistic. But every time the protagonist is on screen, he looks so good. Gave me Code Vein vibes, but even better. And this is only one art style. We could also see something more cartoonish for other franchises, something more in the veins of Kena, announced for PlayStation recently. I could easily see Ni no Kuni adapt this art style and look this good. These environments feel so rich. We can also expect one of the biggest problems in anime games to be fixed, which is incredibly long loading screens. Unnecessarily long loading screens. The result of poor optimization, let's be honest. With SSDs, the loading times could virtually disappear. The biggest showcase we've had of this so far was with a new Ratchet & Clank game. Every time you see this break in reality, this portal into a new world, that was a loading screen. That was it. That was the game loading you from one area to the next one, which allows for these crazy levels to happen. Now, I'm not expecting this from anime games anytime soon, but at the very least, they'll cut down on loading times. That said, it's also important to keep our expectations in check because anime games have disappointed time and time again. They've never been known for being well optimized, and even though these consoles support higher frame rates, I feel like anime games have struggled to run at 30 FPS for most of this generation. So I don't expect the next generation to fix that. I don't think anime games will be super well optimized. And once again, looking at Scarlet Nexus, this game looks like a mess right now. There's obviously time to fix it. Optimization is one of the last steps in video game development, but how many times have we said that about a Bandai Namco trailer? Only to see the final game come out and still have these performance issues. Jump Force, One Punch Man, Sword Art Online, the list goes on really. Next up, one of my most anticipated features, Crossplay. Crossplay is what allows you to play multiplayer games across different consoles. So if you're an Xbox player, you could play against a PlayStation player or a PC player. You can play across consoles. Get the name? Crossplay. You'll be able to find more players because you are no longer restricted. You're no longer limited to your own console's player pool. Crossplay is becoming more of an industry standard, and for anime games, that's really good because you simply cannot buy any multiplayer anime game on Xbox. Period. It will be dead within a week, unless they put it on Game Pass. But even then, it's just not as healthy as the PlayStation player bases. And that shouldn't be what makes you buy a PlayStation. It shouldn't be the player base numbers. It should be like, if you like Halo, get the Xbox. If crossplay becomes a standard, then it doesn't matter which console you pick, you can still play with your friends. That said, anime games will follow the gaming industry, and games are now starting to do crossplay more and more, but I wouldn't say it's quite the standard yet. So I don't think anime games will be the ones pushing crossplay, they will follow the industry. So when it gets there, anime games will follow, but it won't happen right out of the gate. It will definitely happen during this next generation, but not as soon as this next generation happens. Better Netcode. Now, this one has nothing to do with the next generation, it's just the timing of it is kind of a coincidence. With the current pandemic, companies have become more aware that their games online is really bad. This has been especially noticeable with Japanese companies and fighting games. We see these companies trying to put together their tournaments, and now they have to do it online because there's no other option, and they finally realize how bad their online is. They are finally feeling our pain. So Japan is making an effort to implement rollback netcode, and for those who don't know, you can look up exactly what rollback netcode is. I don't have time to explain. But in broad strokes, it's a type of online, let's call it architecture, that a lot of companies in the West already use for their online games. Because the United States is huge, they needed to figure out a way for all those players to have a good online experience. And Japan just isn't nearly as big, so delay-based netcode has worked out great for them so far. And since they can still go international, putting on their world world tournaments because it's all offline, it's all local, it doesn't matter, they kept ignoring it. Now, the biggest Japanese fighting game developers are already making moves to implement rollback, those being Capcom and Arc System Works. If they can pull it off and implement rollback successfully, then everyone else will follow. That will simply be the new industry standard, the online solution. Problem is, rollback netcode isn't always easy to implement. Rollback is not a magic solution like many people believe to be. Like, we've seen some pretty terrible examples of it, especially in Street Fighter. So hopefully they'll figure it out, because if they do, the rest of Japan will follow, with the exception of maybe Nintendo. Yeah, I think Smash Online is doomed forever, dude. Nintendo just doesn't care, they do their own thing. And that's pretty much what I expect from anime games in the next generation of consoles, but we can't end this video without a few predictions, without some actual games. So let's talk about the games that I think are coming out for the next generation, the guarantees. I think the new Demon Slayer will definitely be out on new consoles as well, though with backwards compatibility and all that, it's hard to say what is a PS5 game and what is a PS4 game that runs on PS5. But outside of all the stuff that's been announced, which is Demon Slayer, Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, and that's it. Yeah, that's right, anime games are cancelled. Y'all saw that Bandai event, it's all DLC from now on. Here are the games that I think will definitely happen on PlayStation 5. First up, the Dragon Ball games. Xenoverse 3. I don't know if I would personally call it Xenoverse 3, I'd probably go for another name like Xenoverse Unleashed or whatever, because Xenoverse 2 really was an upgraded version of Xenoverse 1. With a new console, you expect somewhat of a bigger departure, and that starts with the title. Xenoverse 2 is the most sold Dragon Ball game to date, so there will definitely be a sequel. Also, big seller, Dragon Ball FighterZ. Now, whether we see Dragon Ball FighterZ 2 or maybe they pick up another anime license and give it the FighterZ treatment, I don't know. But there's no way FighterZ doesn't see a sequel. Whatever game is succeeding FighterZ, you bet they're already working on it. I wouldn't get my hopes up regarding another anime getting the FighterZ treatment, because Dragon Ball FighterZ 2 is the safe bet. And these companies aren't really known for taking big risks. Speaking of safe bets, Jump Force 2. When you make a game that is this bad and it sells this good, there's no reason not to do it again. And again, I'm not saying it will be called Jump Force 2, but some kind of cross shonen game like a J-Stars or whatever. We'll see another one of those for sure. And finally, and this is my wildest prediction, a Bleach game. I've said it before on the channel, we'll get another Bleach game when the Bleach anime returns, and guess what? The Bleach anime is returning during the next generation of consoles. Bleach is still incredibly popular, so I bet the anime will do well regardless of quality, and at least one game will follow. No idea who picks up that license and how much effort they'll put into it. If you ask me, making a Bleach game right now is a bit of a risk. You simply don't know how popular for sure it will be once it comes back, but I think it will be popular enough to at least put something out, to, you know, see if it sticks. And that's anime games in the next generation of consoles. I think it's important to look at what's out there, temper our expectations, but also be excited about the future. Once again, thank you Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Link down below for your 2-month free trial. And if you guys got any thoughts you'd like to share, I invite you guys to leave a comment or show up on the Twitch stream, twitch.tv/Globku. And as always, thank you very much for watching. My name is Globku, and I'll see you next time. Bye.